Welcome to Every Dollar Counts with Josh and Jay, a shot of true serum for your investment and insurance questions. I'm Josh Knoll, the owner of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jay Stubbs, Regional Director for First Protective. We are brought to you on the Prime Capital Investment Advisors Podcast Network. So, Jay, our podcast typically centers around money, investments, insurance, things like that. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but things have changed a little bit here recently.
You think, Josh? We are in an unprecedented times. To use our guest's words today, it's very fluid. He'll say that a couple of times, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we normally don't timestamp our episodes, but we will in this show. This is being recorded on March 24th, 2020, and obviously the world is dealing with stock market volatility. It's dealing with the coronavirus. It's dealing with a lot of things. So in recognition of that reality, Jay and I decided to put together a series of episodes featuring local business owners that we think will provide you, the listener, some practical advice for navigating your business or occupation through this crisis, especially as it relates to technology and leveraging online platforms. Our guest for this episode is Cam Marston. Cam is the president of Generational Insights. He is the host of What's Working with Cam Marston, and he's also a published author of 4 books. Cam has a huge presence across multiple platforms, and Jay and I really think he can provide valuable advice to folks navigating this crisis. Before we dive into all that, though, let's have our friends from Sloth Racer kick us off. Jay, Cam, how y'all doing?
Josh, it's good to be in here. Unprecedented times we've certainly got going on in the marketplace. It's also good to have my friend Cam Marston here with us, my exercise buddy, drinking partner on the occasion. Good to have you in here, Cam. And I know you've been very busy today with your own stuff, and we'll get into that later on, but it's good to have you.
Thank you. Just trying to stay alive, and I mean that literally.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, thank you for joining us. Like Jay said, I know you are very busy. We appreciate you making the time. Cam, before we start diving into individual practical tips for people, I'd really like to take an opportunity to tell our listeners, what is Generational Insights?
Generational Insights began about 20 years ago, and today it is I would just say, best description is an educational source for people looking at demographic trends in both the workplace and the marketplace. We study these trends and we relate it to the workplace through seminars, workshops, keynote presentations, etc., that answer the question, how do I recruit better? How do I retain better? How do I sell better to different age groups of people? So we develop the content, we do the research, develop the content, and create the deliverables in many different platforms that help our customers across the nation answer those questions.
You actually help people understand the sales and the purchase habits of 4 generations of consumers. Now going on 5.
Now going on 5, that's right. We look at what motivates each different generation and how they define good service, good sales, how they define what characteristics they're looking for in both a product and a salesperson, as well as the same focus in the workplace. What is a good job? What is a good boss, etc.? And we explain that to our clients who are looking to solve that riddle.
Or how the current situation has baby boomers under lock and key deadbolt and has certain generations hanging out on the beach in spring break.
I think since time began, the youngest generations have always thought they were bulletproof and invincible, and we're seeing that very clearly right now. Their behavior is curbing a little bit. They're getting off the beach, not because they want to, because they have to.
In handcuffs if they don't.
And that one guy that was interviewed maybe a week ago has since, I saw on social media today, come out in a huge public apology. I think that was a little bit of comeuppance there. But younger generations have always thought they were invincible. And unfortunately, there are times when they need to curb that attitude for the greater good.
Cam, you've got a long history of assisting those of people like me and Josh in our industry, the financial services industry. I know today you started off a radio show with Sean Sullivan and FM Talk 106.5. Tell us a little bit about that and how that proliferated.
Well, it's the need for a purpose. My business has really evaporated. If I rely on conferences and workshops and group gatherings to do my work,
like we've hired you
many times. You're a great customer. Those things, as we all know, have vanished as of the recording of this show. So my need to feel like I'm doing something led me to send a message to the local talk station, 106.5, and say, I think I can help small business. I've got a lot of connections and I can put them on, and I know how to interview them and ask them questions that will help the small business listeners in the area. And they're going to be the questions are demand numerated answers of actionable ideas. So he was in agreement. This is something he said that we are getting requests for at the station. Please come in and begin this. And within a week's time, we had organized the show. And today was the first one had 2 guests on and said, what do we need to know? What do we need to know? What's going on out there?
So for at least foreseeable future, you're doing this 2 days a week in the Gulf Coast marketplace.
That's correct. In the Gulf Coast marketplace for the foreseeable future, it is both giving me something to do and, frankly, and I think this is important, a purpose to feel like I'm helping out in a time of crisis.
I agree with that. Cam, and one thing I wanted to add was everything that you've built over the years has been building your personal brand so that at this time when you can shift gears to a certain degree and put yourself out there as a resource to help people, how have you felt the response has been? Has it been better because you'd already spent all that time building that brand? Do you feel like it's a natural transition for people to reach out to you for advice like that?
It's an interesting question. And I think the brand that I've built over the past 20 some odd years is giving me credibility to step my foot into new things. And whereas I've proven myself, and I don't want to sound boastful or egotistical, but I've proven myself to provide a good product or service over a period of time. So when I throw out a new idea to someone who knows me and my background, they're more willing to listen because I've got a history of performance. By no means am I the best in the world, but I've shown up and done a good job, so they listen. And I didn't realize that credibility would become so important in a time like this where people will listen to me. I've got a idea for a live radio show. What do you think? And they said yes. Within 2 minutes of me sending the email to Sean Sullivan about the live show, he responded back, yes, let's start. Not more, not what do you have in mind, not explain this, but yes, let's start.
Well, you've built your credentials as an author, a columnist, a blogger, a lecturer, and you give everyone that listens a clear understanding of how generational demographics change the landscape of business. And today, most importantly, in a world that has been obliterated to some, certainly financially, but so in the health industries, you're now bringing some ideas, just like you said, trying to have a purpose. So I think the hard sweat equity you put into your brand for the last 20 plus years is now going to pay some dividends where you're going to be seen as a counselor and an advisor to all types of businesses.
I hope so. But bear in mind, that's not the fruit. This is this is part of the fruition of the work, but this is not the fruit that I've worked for. This is another platform for me to feel like I'm helping in a new way. And
when we emerge, this is going to be the trampoline for your aspect of your business. When we emerge from this,
we'll see. I don't know what that will look like, and I've learned to not count your chickens. Right now, I got to work on Thursday's show.
You're good at throwing chickens, but
I can throw a rubber chicken like nobody's business. That's a different topic, and we need to turn the mics off for that one. But yeah, I can throw a rubber chicken.
Well, Cam, I've considered myself as someone that has a Gen Xer, has the mind of a millennial, and the body of a boomer.
You're some sort of Greek tragic hero before the fall.
Yes, yeah, and that's my own fault for the body part of it, but it is what it is. But I think that one of the reasons we wanted to bring you on is we are all grown adults here. We've been through a few things. You were in business shortly there. If I'm doing the math right, you started your company around the time of the .com bust? That's
about right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at the time, everybody thought the sky was falling and the world was ending. Technology, no one is ever going to order anything online ever again. Right. What are we going to do? So you started during that time of chaos, right?
I was trying to get a toehold in a time of chaos, and I was able to give people insight into employee motivations at that time, which was a help to me.
Okay. Rewind in your mind when you're going through that. And you're married. You've been married many years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know you well enough to take a guess that you probably had a really nice paying job before you decided to go off on your own.
I had a stable paying job. It wasn't nice, but if it was nice, I never would have gone off on my own.
Okay. Well, the coronavirus or something similar to that didn't push you out the door. You made that decision of your own free will.
That's right.
Take the listeners through some of what you learned in the beginning that you think might help them now if they're looking at a career change, an occupation change, a time of opportunity. What do you think helped guide you through that time period, not knowing what was coming next?
And perhaps I'm going to show you more of my show you the hand I was dealt, perhaps more than what I had anticipated. I felt like I could do more. I felt like personal motivation is I was capable of more than what this company was asking of me and what they were giving me to do. And I could be of more help, I could do more for more people, and I could achieve more than the company would have allowed me to do had I even done great there. So I come from a background where my father and my mother both were self-employed business owners, and that was always the venue that I had in front of me. Self-employed business, what does that look like? So as I started, the question is, what more can I do? How much bigger can I be than what this company would allow me to do? And that led me into it. In the process, though, and this is something we talked about on the radio today, there were harrowing moments of not knowing what was going to happen. Fear. Fear is, and my wife and I had a conversation about this afternoon. Fear allowed me to pursue things, made me pursue things that I normally wouldn't have considered. And I think there may be fear in our environment right now. Now, in our part of the world, in our little corner of the world, which I adore, there's a big faith-based community out there. And a lot of fear is addressed by faith. But for those that before the faith comes in, you feel that fear. And the question can't be, and this is my big motivation for the live show that I've just started, we can't come out of this the same way we were when we went into it, both personally and as a community. Now, there's somebody listening to this podcast right now who I think is probably dealing with some fear. What's going to happen? Am I going to retain my job? Even if I retain my job, will my company retain my customers for me? What's going to happen? And that is driven, I think, a lot by fear. And the question has got to be, where is the opportunity here? I have two options. I can sit here and be afraid, or I can be afraid and do something. And an often overused expression, and you've likely heard this, everybody listens likely heard this, bravery is not absence of fear. Bravery is acknowledging fear and moving forward anyway. And we've got to be brave right now. There are people right now wondering what their next chapter will be. You're not going to do it. You'll not figure out what your next chapter will be looking backwards nor looking forward into the future someday. It's what do I need to do next right now and moving forward anyway.
Dr. Kevin Elko says, be where your feet are.
That's a good one.
That be where your feet are. I mean, take care of what's important now. His acronym WIN, W-I-N, what's important now.
Yeah.
You can't worry about what a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You need to strategize and plan, but you do need to worry about what's important now.
I think every major, and I by no means am an expert, but every major fundamental, that's not traditional religion, regardless of the banner that it's on, emphasizing be present in the moment, be here now.
All right, so I'm gonna pick on that much younger Cam Marston again. So it's 2000-ish in that time frame.
Yep.
You're jumping into this consulting type of market. You don't have any brand recognition. You just have your own personal talent to rely on, to have faith. Because you can have faith religiously, and that's great. Sometimes you got to have faith in yourself to couple with that. Right?
I agree.
You can fast forward, think about the platforms that you've seen develop over your career. Radio obviously was around then. It's still around now. Online, websites, social media. You've seen the birth and the initial reaction and then the growth and the acceptance of all those platforms. Did you ever think that you would be in a time going through yet another market downturn to where in 2000 you really didn't have the opportunity to stay in touch with people like you do now? Is that fair?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I remember I began my business in Charlotte, North Carolina, and there was a guy there at that time who was doing websites, and we didn't really know exactly what they were. Well, they thought they were interesting and cool, and this is a kind of a side hobby, and good for you. His name was Nader El Gundi, and he had been a U.S. submariner, and he was a really fascinating guy. I loved him to death, but he was doing this stuff, and we thought it was kind of interesting, and we viewed him as cutting edge, but not relevant. Baby, we didn't realize how far ahead he was. And if we had listened to them, I would have invested more in that platform at that time. Now, you can't be taken seriously, obviously, without a website. It's standard. But what's replaced the website and continues to grow in importance is the value of social media, which again, if I could go back in time, I would say, all right, I need to create a beachhead here. I need to create a bigger presence here because it creates relevance, it creates awareness. And one of the things that I've learned in the radio show that I do, now we've got the live show and we've got the pre-recorded show where I interview businesses about their story, is the huge influence. There are businesses out there that don't exist other than the benefit of social media. And I was shocked to learn how many. I thought they would maybe be one or two or here or there an oddity, but they're not. They're everywhere and the prevalence of that. So when I started, let's take recently, and I don't even know how we'd consider recently, 6 to 8 years, Facebook is the thing. Well, now the consuming youth-driven public does not look at that. We know that, but it's moved into Instagram, and there's likely something else coming that I'm unaware of. Looking back and going forward, we're investing more in this, both in time and energy and image. Instagram is very image-driven of what we want to be seen as. And if I'm going to be relevant in the future, as Jay said, this is going to springboard me into something. I know that these platforms and the ones that we don't know about that are on their way will be not only relevant, but critical to the success. And that's a message that I was late in learning. And anybody who's thinking about launching out there right now, that's the investment you got to make, both in time and money. And it doesn't have to be a fortune, but it has to be a meaningful amount.
Cam, what do you feel over the next 6 weeks that people could take action on? What's the laundry list of things when you started thinking about this radio show? What's the laundry list of things that you think somebody could say, I need to learn more about this and take action on it?
I want people to learn. Now, one of the things that I'm looking for is I want to know how to market cheaply. My marketing budget. Marketing and training are usually the first thing slashed in times of recession. So the question number one, how do I market cheaply? There's no question that the social media is a big part of that. But outside of that, what else do I need to do to get the word out that I'm still open, that I'm still taking customers? What is that? So number one, market cheaply. Number two, how do I wisely use the employees or the staff that I have? How do I get them to take on new responsibilities? Because we might have to cut marketing, and now you're in charge of marketing. How do I broaden skills in my own workplace for people that don't know anything about it? I got to teach them and get them relevant on that. Three is, how do I change the hours that I work that's relevant to my customers these days? How do I... Availability. How do I change my availability that's relevant to the customers that are out there today? How do I manage, and this is one of the ones we've got coming up, how do I manage a remote workforce? I've never had to do that before. Everybody's always been under the same roof, and I've managed them effectively. How do I manage a remote workforce? So there are a lot of questions that there is expertise out there, at least a fraction of expertise, that we're going to go find those people, and they're going to be advising these businesses going forward. And let's say, frankly, I'll be learning along the way myself and listening for opportunity.
So it's clear we're going to be living like this for a little while, at least the foreseeable future, as we've stated. We might as well get good at living like that, and we better find a way to be productive in it.
I think be comfortable with uncertainty, as hard as that is, being comfortable with uncertainty and learning to live like that. Now, I asked a guy that is down the hall in my office yesterday. I stepped in and chatted with him. And I said, what's the message coming out of your household from this? And he said, I had the same conversation with my wife, and there was a big message that she didn't even flinch. She said, we need to slow down. There is a reason that we need to pause a little bit and recognize our surroundings. Going back to what we said earlier, be where your feet are, be wherever you are, be there. Slow down, be present a little bit more. I think our minds teach us to look into the future. There's something to be recognized by being in the present, and this slowdown, this calamity, this collapse, this crisis, whatever we want to call it, is making us do that, and that's good. It's uncomfortable, but it's good.
Beautifully said. Well, Cam, how do folks get a hold of you?
My website, cammarston.com, CAMMARSTON.com is the easiest way, and you'll find all my contact information there.
All right.
Cam, you've been doing this a long time. You're making some changes. You're adapting. You're being fluid, as you've stated. So we're going to continue to listen to you. We're going to seek some guidance from you and counsel, and we hope that you will do the same. The people that listen to this podcast probably got a lot of good insight from you today, so we greatly appreciate it.
Feels good to contribute. It feels good.
You've been a beacon for us from the very beginning, whether you knew that or not. So we definitely wanted to say thank you.
Nice of you.
All right. So listeners, obviously, if anybody's listened to us at this point, we are here to help, and we are attacking this crisis. You can reach out to the show, leave a message, or text at 251-327-2124, or you can visit gulfcoastfa.com. You can hear our podcast, this podcast there. You can hear other podcasts. To learn more about Cam Marston, it's cammarston.com.
That's right.
Right. Okay. And then lastly, to all you independent and semi-independent advisors and agents out there listening and interested in the value that a Jay Stubbs could bring to your practice, you can find him at jaystubbs.com. That's JAYSTUBBS.com. So Fellas, another show in the can. I want to thank Cam Marston for being our guest today. You did fantastic. I don't know if you realize this, how much you crushed it or not. That was good.
He's one of the best.
Yeah, it's obvious. Thank our co-host, my co-host Jay Stubbs. Thank our producer Johnny Gwynn of Deep Fry Studios. And to all you out there that have joined Jay and I on this journey, and definitely to those of you all that are tuning in now, thank you for listening to us. Hopefully you're getting some information here that you can take action on now. This is a time of opportunity, and you're either going to have to attack that. Like Cam said, you have two choices right now. You can be afraid, or you can be afraid and do something about it.
You got to be afraid. You got to do something about it.
There you go. This has been Every Dollar Counts with Josh and Jay. Thank you and have a great day. Advisory services offered through Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, PCIA, a federally registered investment advisor. PCIA, doing business as Prime Capital Wealth Management, PCWM, and Qualified Plan Advisors, QPA. Gulf Coast Financial Advisors is independent of Prime Capital Advisors. Information presented is for educational purposes only, is not an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. All investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, be sure to consult a tax professional before implementing any tax or investment strategies.